Their first uniform. Their first number. Their first teammate. Their first goal. Their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at kickstarttoddlersoccer.com.
Our mission is to help players take their game to the next level and reach their potential. We help players develop fundamental technical skills such as ball control in tight spaces, dribbling at speed and changing direction, using a variety of 1v1 skills, receiving and finishing from different situations such as volleys, headers, one touch, and off the dribble, with and without pressure. In addition, we help players increase their speed of play, dominate with their off-the-ball movement, awareness of space, defenders, and teammates. We offer a variety of services such as one-on-ones, small groups, as well as large groups and team sessions. We have an experienced coaching staff that is professional, friendly, patient, while still holding players to high standards and holding them accountable. Over the past 3 years, we've built one of the best soccer-specific training facilities in the country. We've also developed one of the most detail-oriented training programs to help out players. No matter what level you're at as a player, I'm confident we can help you get better. For more information, visit our website, evolutionperformancetraining.com, or text or call 248-818-3943.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75. Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in!
We like to do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do.
We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not.
We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo!
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
I'm a husband. I'm a father.
I'm a sister.
I'm a son. I'm a brother.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister.
I'm a referee.
I'm a referee.
I am a referee.
I'm a referee.
All right, ready? Okay. Wait, we're just saying action.
Yeah.
And action. Hi, we're the Tilly Sisters.
And check out,
We're the Tilly Sisters.
check out our journey on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Okay, you weren't looking up. Hi, we're the Tilly Sisters.
And you can check out our journey on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Do it around the, all right. I'll just go like this. All right. Oh, wait, what are we saying?
Are you looking to grow here in 2023? Let the Michigan Soccer Network help you and your restaurant fill more seats. Help you and your law firm get new clients. Help you and your dental practice find more patients. Find more roofing customers for this upcoming summer. And to help you and your medical practice find new patients. To learn more or get started, visit MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Don't miss out on any of the exclusive or live broadcasts right here on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Join John and I as we bring you all sorts of content involving soccer throughout the great state of Michigan. Why subscribe to MSN? Subscribe to catch all your local soccer action.
The Michigan Soccer Network, the only place to watch soccer in Michigan.
I watch soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
لا تنسون تتابعونا على Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I like to watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
Me gusta mirar fútbol en Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I love watching soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Back to Vitriol. He'll take a shot, and he'll bear it! And then he'll fire it from Billows, and it'll go in! Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in! And both goals so far. He'll fire one, and that's a wonderful save, Trinity. That's missed. Oh, it's Stone! And the... He'll fire one now from distance, and that is in! What a strike by Ben Maher! Well, good morning, and welcome back here to the morning overlap here on the Michigan Soccer Network with Steve and John. I'm John, this is Steve, and it's Thursday morning, the 9th of February, and today we got a good show lined up here for you, the greatest soccer players of all time. You know, we're going to tell you ours and why. We're going to review some lists, we're going to take a look at some things, see what happens.
Yeah, plenty to discuss. Some news coming in this morning with... about a resurgence of the Super League, and we'll dive into that, and then we'll get into the greatest players of all time. Remember, if you want to call in and join us here for that discussion, we'll put that number up in a little bit once we dip into the players, and we'd love to share some discussion with you folks out there.
No question. It is a rainy, miserable day here in Michigan. Driving in here, I'm pretty sure I went through a number of flash floods along the way here in my drive. My drive not as long as Steve's.
Steve. a bit longer even this morning. The slow freeways and constant brake checks, it seemed like, definitely increased my travel time this morning. But before that, John, just as I had mentioned, there was news this morning coming out of England and out of Europe, I guess, that the European Super League, which had been proposed back in April of 21, which fell apart after pushback from fans and clubs, there was a resurgence to reignite that league, and leaks are starting to come out that there is a proposed Super League that will involve anywhere from 60 to 80 teams. Multiple divisions that will eventually and hope to replace the current Champions League format. There would be no teams that would have automatic qualification or bid in it, so there will be some form of, I guess, you have to have some kind of resume or win certain things or have some kind of pedigree to get into it. I'm not sure how that 60 to 80 teams will be broken down by country or league, but originally the Super League was like a 12 to 14 team type league. This now obviously a 60 to 80 team type league. What are your thoughts?
How many clubs are in the Champions League?
I believe they start with 8 groups of 4, so 32.
32.
But then you also have the Europa League, and I guess that's maybe what they're trying to do is combine what is the Europa League and the Champions League, because there are sometimes teams that fall into those other leagues that can compete. So 64 teams maybe their total. So
yeah, I mean, you know, I guess the question is this just going to possibly take over a Champions League or a Europa League? What does that mean for scheduling, right? You know, and more importantly, what is the criteria for these teams to get in? I like the Champions League. I think I think they've done a really good job of getting some of the best teams in the European side, right, to be in that league. I just don't know what this means to the landscape, across the pond, because your team now. Okay, so you win the
You know, you win your league over there, and now you're in the Champions League. So now you have to make a choice between the Champions League and this Super League. Will the Super League take over completely these leagues altogether? Will the Champions League still exist?
I think the idea, the thought is that it would be replacing the Champions League, because if they could get commitment from these major clubs, there would be no way that they could participate in both competitions, especially why would they want to if all the big clubs are joining this supposed European Super League. They say 14 guaranteed games, so there would be divisions, I'm guessing, of 6, 7, 8 teams. I guess 8 teams you would play, you know, your 7 opponents home and away, I'm assuming, in that type of format. I think the way soccer has been set up, football has been set up in Europe with the Champions League, the success of the Champions League, there's pride for those teams that make it, because there is so much that goes into pushing into making the top 4 in your domestic league, or for some cases, some of the smaller countries, it's the top 2 or the eventual winner. Or in a situation, right, John, like we're familiar with, Andorra, you win the Andorran domestic league, you don't get that automatic berth into the Champions League group play. You have to participate in that playoff. Yeah. So what this does is, sure, it opens up the doors for more teams to qualify to be playing on a bigger stage. Does it dilute the quality of the product? I think so, because I think that's where, you know, when we strive to say, hey, the top 4 teams in England, the top 4 teams in Germany, Spain, and then those other, you know, 1 or 2 teams from each division, you're taking the best of the best. You're really cultivating the champions of the top teams in the league, and really kind of playing that cross European competition, which I think is great. Expanding it to 60 to 80 teams is now just including teams that, on certain nights, will there be upsets? I'm sure there will be, but at the end of the competition, when you get down to the final 6 or 8 or 4 teams, we're still going to be talking about those same teams that year in, year out are competing in the Champions League level. It's just, let's make this path a little longer and the road a little wider for them to get there. But eventually, I assume and really think that we're going to end up with very similar results as far as matchups if that goes down that same road.
Well, too, and something that I know, you know, a lot of times, and I can't speak to what I don't know as far as loyalty, what it is like over, you know, in soccer on the other side of the pond in the EPL and across Europe. But, you know, I think loyalty to a specific organization or league could be a thing. And you might find an FC Barcelona saying, hey, we're loyal to the Champions League and we don't want to go to the Super League. So now what does that mean, you know, to the Juventus or to, you know, the Chelsea, who's going to maybe goes and joins that league? Now you're not going to be playing against the best, because FC Barcelona, from the Champions League standpoint, very dominant in that league, right, for many, many years. Not so much as they used to be. But, you know, you think about that, Real Madrid, right? So there's a lot of things that could happen here. I think diluting the game is a big concern for me. The more leagues you have, the more options, the value of that product goes down. I also think adding more games into already a crazy schedule for the EPL and across the pond. I mean, 38 matches in the EPL currently. With the Champions League, I think it's somewhere the 8 to is it 12?
Well, there's group play, so you play your 3 opponents twice. So that's 6 games.
6 games.
And then there's progression within the tournament. So you're still talking half right now of guaranteed games, half of what you would get there. So, and then the flip side of it too, John, is obviously there's a financial side of this, right? There is the eyes of some of those mid-table clubs or the not as big clubs looking at situations like this, saying this is an opportunity where we're going to be getting guaranteed dollars from TV money. This is going to be guaranteed.
You get 7 home games.
Right, 7 home games.
Yeah.
You'd be getting big turnstile fees coming in, right, with attendance at matches, because we know that, you know, unlike some American sports, even in championship type level games, where there aren't sellouts because the home experience is becoming better, and that's another conversation. But these games fill up. You know, you go to a Champions League night, you know, especially some of the smaller clubs, they're going to sell out, they're going to max out. So that's huge for them. So there's definitely a financial side that I think these clubs are going to look at and say, and there's going to be some clubs that say, yes, we respect the history of what the Champions League was and is, but hey, there's an opportunity here for a financial boost that could keep our club afloat and keep our club competing. So
yeah,
it's a balance, and I can understand why some people will want to push for this European Super League, but we'll see how it plays out. We'll see if there's more pushback like there were 2 years ago, and we'll discuss again if anything further kind of breaks from this.
Well, Danny Garrett chiming in here this morning. Danny's saying the plan would be to replace all the domestic leagues at some point, I would imagine, and eventually you'd have an entire European super pyramid structure. I don't know. I mean, again, just like we talked about Man City here on Tuesday, time will tell how this has been something that's kind of been talking about kind of as almost in rumor-like fashion for some time now. It's kind of resurfaced a little bit here this last couple of days. So we'll keep an eye on that. But some things that happened here just the last couple of days here, in other sports. Obviously, the Super Bowl is this weekend. That's a big deal. I will be driving, leaving at 3 a.m. here on Sunday morning, making my way to Nashville, where my best friend resides. I'll be staying at a Holiday Inn Express in Nashville and watching the game at a restaurant. My second consecutive year, I'll be watching the Super Bowl away from home. Steve, what are your plans?
Big Super Bowl party, finally resuming from pre-COVID. As far as the actual party getting together, which involves poker game beforehand, watching the Puppy Bowl, of course, and then
Puppy Bowl.
Everybody brings food. It's a potluck of fantastic food and good people, and of course prop bets and all that. So it'll be a good time. Excited to enjoy the game. Don't really have a dog in the fight as far as I care who wins. I'm just hoping for a good game and hopefully maybe can take home some squares or some prop bets. So.
Well, there you go. So on Tuesday, after our show Tuesday night, some history happened in the NBA. LeBron James officially surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's career NBA scoring record, scoring a 21-foot turnarounder with 10.6 seconds left in the third quarter to go with 38,388 points for what they say is his illustrious career. Now, a conversation in which we're talking about greatest soccer players of all time. We'll get into that here on the other side of the break. But the conversation about the greatest of all time came up as it relates to LeBron James, right? And as we talk about this being the morning overlap show, we want to overlap other types of sports, things that happen in the world around us, is LeBron James the greatest basketball player of all time? And he just surpassed the NBA scoring record, held almost for 4 decades. And does that make him the GOAT? And Shaquille O'Neal made a great point yesterday during one of his interviews in regards to this. And his comment was, well, I think we need to start getting away from this GOAT of all time and maybe GOAT of an era, right? Who's the greatest player now, right? Who was the greatest football player for the last number of years, right? And to be fair, in my lifetime, from 2001 until now, the most consistent greatest quarterback that I ever saw play was Tom Brady. Now, we've seen some other quarterbacks who are really good, but you're talking about winning 7 Super Bowls, right? Just a tremendous career. Greatest football player of my generation. I think of golf, right? Jack Nicklaus was my dad's. Tiger Woods is mine. Right? Greatest golfer of all time. You get into baseball. Who's the greatest baseball player of all time in this generation? I'm not as big of a baseball fan as I used to be. I think Derek Jeter probably up there. As a just a really good player. Because there's different positions, right? You think about Derek Jeter, really great shortstop, consistently there.
And the same I think goes through for a lot of sports, in that it's very difficult to compare positions because. In football, the quarterback gets all the praise when they win and all the scrutiny when they lose.
100%.
But can't do his job without the 10, 11 other guys out there, right? That, blocking, catching, running the ball, and doing those things. Same thing with baseball. It's hard to compare, a Nolan Ryan of a great pitcher to the likes of a Hank Aaron or Barry Bonds or a Babe Ruth, right? A hitter. And there's not many that are, that can do both, right, in that at that level. And so in basketball, obviously, there's a little bit more of an even playing field as far as all 5 guys are on the court with the same restrictions and same opportunities. Obviously, you have players of different size and height and position and skill set, but the ability to be out there competing is all equal as far as all 5 players on the floor. Very much and even into to soccer, where we're going to jump into, is it fair to compare goalkeepers, with field players? And I'm sure we'll dive into that. I know Danny had mentioned in our chat that, trying to drop some love for some defenders, and we'll discuss that as well, because I think, different positions and then to your point, in different eras can really, differ in your view and your lens on the greatest of all time.
Yeah, no question about that. But so when we come back from break, we'll dive into the greatest soccer players of all time. We'll talk about what the criteria should be, or maybe what we're judging this based off. Is it goals? Is it assists? Is it position, right? A lot of these different factors. But before we head off to break, let's talk here about what is today. Today is Thursday, and today is App Thursday at Granite City. $6 apps all day long, $3 Granite City Pints, and $6 Granite City Growlers. Head over to Granite City, Troy at 16 Mile and I-75, or the Northville location at 7 Mile and Haggerty. You're watching the Morning Overlap with Steve and John on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Are you looking to grow here in 2023? Let the Michigan Soccer Network help you and your restaurant fill more seats. Help you and your law firm get new clients. Help you and your dental practice find more patients. Find more roofing customers this upcoming summer. And to help you and your medical practice find new patients. To learn more or get started, visit MichiganSoccerNetwork.com.
Their first ball, their first uniform, their first number, their first teammate, their first goal, their first coach. We take great care in making sure their first isn't their last. We're so much more than a soccer class. Come play with us today at KickstartToddlerSoccer.com.
Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in!
Wait, we're just saying action. Go. And action. Hi, we're the Tilly Sisters.
And check out,
We're the Tilly Sisters.
check out our journey on the Michigan Soccer Network.
You weren't looking. Hi, we're the Tilly Sisters.
And you can check out our journey on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Do it around the, all right. I'll just go like this. All right. Oh, wait, what are we saying?
Well, welcome back here into our studios here in Shelby Township, Michigan. Big news here on this Thursday morning. Officially naming the studio Premier Sports Center Studios. That's official. Signed that contract yesterday. Having a new sign put on our wall here very soon. They steer, Mr. Baskin.
Bye-bye, Sour Patch Kids.
Bye-bye, Sour Patch Kids. Premier Sports Center, located here, 23 Mile Road in Shelby Township, Michigan, hosts a lot of different things, but mainly soccer. We are on the second floor, and it makes sense that they are our studio sponsor. So super excited about that. If this is your first time ever coming and being a part of our network here on this Thursday morning, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share this with your friends and family. And that's your way of saying and showing that you appreciate what we're doing. Also, keep in mind, this will be available later this morning on all listing platforms. Wherever you listen to podcasts, it will be available on at least 30 of them, because that's what I've set us up for. So anyways, as we hop back into this conversation about the greatest soccer players of all time. And, before the break, we were talking about, and Danny Garrett, we appreciate you chiming in on this one, is, I think best of the area is a good way to look at this, because, as you can imagine, there wasn't VAR, 20 years ago. The way the rules have changed over the years, not just in this sport, in soccer, but in sports in general. The amount of games, right? There used to be only 16 football games in an NFL season. Now there's 17. Right, so that extra game can make a big difference when it comes to ultimately, more stats, more touchdowns, more whatever. So I think that to say the best of an era is a good thing to look at. And if I'm not mistaken, I was reading an article here recently about the NBA, Steve, where they're talking about maybe making it where there's some kind of a tournament that takes place in season.
Yeah, there's in-season tournament rumors going on. It's almost. I think Adam Silver even confirmed it, that it's going to happen at some point. It's just structuring it. It'll be very similar to kind of like how the League Cup or FA Cup works within the season. Potential, they've talked about, the winner of that in-season cup would get an automatic playoff bid, or, some sort of maybe home court advantage regardless of seed. There's talks of those types of things going on, which is going to change statistics and add new things. So every era is going to have, their opinion on what they've seen and, greatest. But I think it's just one of those things that us fans love to discuss about. Yeah. It's something we can argue over. It's something we can debate back and forth. And there's arguments on a lot of sides to, whatever, when you're talking the greatest of all time.
Yeah, no question about that. And I think about this and say, okay, so what's the criteria, right? What makes someone the GOAT? Is it the fact that they are elusive and can score a lot of goals? Is it consistency over a long period of time? Is it obviously all the above? Curious, we're asked this question right now in our comment section. You're watching us right now on YouTube. Hey, if you're watching us after this live show, tell us, what is the criteria for being the greatest of all time? Just scoring the most goals in the history of the league. Does that mean something? Does that make you the greatest of all time? We look at players like Lionel Messi. We look at like Pele. We look at these players who, arguably have always been in that conversation. At least, for Messi recently more than Pele, right? Pele's been that conversation for a very long time. Well, what is the criteria? What makes them the GOATs, or even in the conversation? I think it's a fair question to ask, because I think that we as fans of the game don't always know what defines greatness. Right? What defines greatness? Is it stats? Is it how they are in the community? There's a lot of factors that go into looking at an athlete. And I'm curious your thoughts on this.
I think it's, it really kind of falls in the eye of the beholder, to be fair. I think there's no right answer. And there may not be too many wrong answers in a lot of ways. I think, when you watch a player and you watch them do things that you've never seen before, or things at such a high difficulty of degree of difficulty level, and do it over and over again, and make it look so easy, and that it's not, just an accidental, lucky hit or lucky strike. We've all hit, if we've played the game, we've all hit a shot or struck a ball where you don't know how you hit it so pure, right? But, some of these guys do that consistently over and over again, with guys who take free kicks and guys who can play passes in, or the way they can, shift a ball around a defender. So sometimes it comes down to just, visually, like when you watch a player and I've never seen players do this, X, Y, and Z, or compete at this high level for this long. And then there comes into, making your teammates better and the other things that you do. And then there's some people that are affected or influenced by, your off the field behavior and your off the field antics. Maradona was praised on the field. At the time, most people weren't aware of his behavior off the field and his issues that he struggled with. If he had existed and played in today's day and era where social media and news could get out a lot more, would we have praised him despite having similar type success? Who's to say? And so there's something to be said. Going back to the LeBron thing, and you and I have talked about this off the air several times. Like, I'm not a LeBron fan. Like, I don't like LeBron. I can respect LeBron as one of the greats to play the game, but I don't like him. One reason only: he was a piston killer. That's it. But I can respect that LeBron James has never once had an issue off the court with his family. He's never had an issue off the court with the law, getting in trouble. He's never had an issue off the court with his management group. He's never had an issue off the court with his kids, his wife. I mean, so there's something to be said about that respect, where all I can ever talk about with LeBron James is how he played the game and how he left Cleveland. But beyond that, that's it. And so he the way he carried himself, a lot of people can respect LeBron for so much more because of his off the field, right? When those off the field things don't become a topic of conversation on a day-to-day basis, it helps your on-field performance, and it helps elevate it from maybe where it is to even bigger, because you're looked at as in such a different light, and whether that's community work and other things. And so those things can matter. I'm not saying it's a huge part of that, what goes into the greatest of all time, but I think if you look at the way that culture praises certain athletes, that definitely is a part that goes into it.
No, and that's fair. And the reasons why you don't like LeBron are very similar reasons why I don't like LeBron, and probably the same reasons why a lot of fans didn't like Tom Brady, who were on the other side. Like the Colts fans, for example. I can imagine probably not like Tom Brady a lot.
Sure.
Right? Because
there's not many people in Indiana, I'm sure, that like Tom Brady.
Yeah. So you think about that, right? And I don't like LeBron for different reasons, and I think that while he has held himself to a pretty good standard off the court and in the community, I feel like he's injected himself into situations, with his voice and with his prowess, whatever you might want to call it, his greatness, so to speak, and I think that can hurt society sometimes when you put yourself out there like he has. So in certain situations, however, he's like LeBron. We got a couple comments coming in. Danny Garrett: carbon fiber sticks in hockey versus wood. Hand check rules in basketball, VAR in soccer changes the game a lot. LeBron didn't get suspended for a year and a half for gambling either.
Well, that's alleged by some people who believe that that's why he stepped away from basketball. But it's always been a conspiracy amongst NBA fans alike. But Jordan also was 6-0 in the finals and never lost when going there, and so it's And
again, this is why this era conversation is. We're about to get into this here in a second, and I want to go back to this just real quick. I know that just like what me and you right now on this network, while we're having these conversations, we have to be careful with what we say and how we say it. We've oftentimes talked before we ever put the microphone on, Steve, that the way that we project or put our message out there could, one way or another, have an impact. And we don't have nearly the same amount of followers as a LeBron James.
Trying.
Right, we're trying.
By the way, hit that subscribe button, follow us on all our platforms.
So with that being said, with great power comes great responsibility, and I think that we have a responsibility as a network to do our best to, while talk about controversial things or include controversial conversations, to make sure that we're not crossing those lines. And that's something that I think that on some level, I think that not just LeBron James, but I think a lot of athletes have really gone one way or another, and that could in fact hurt the way they are viewed here in the future. Let's start talking about some soccer players here, Steve. there are a lot of players that play the game a lot, and all in their own right can, good, bad, whatever. We're going to be talking about both male and female soccer players, by the way. We think that that's important, right? Both have played the game and have had impact. Without going into who your favorite or your greatest player of all time is, when you're thinking about this question, like, who is the greatest player of all time? And I asked you, aside from the player you picked, who was in that conversation for you?
Well, I think for me, I've watched a lot. It's going to be 36 here in a couple of weeks. I've watched a fair amount of soccer, but I was not, able to watch live or games of Maradona and Pele as much as a younger kid. Obviously now with the ability with YouTube, with videos and documentaries coming out, I've watched a lot more of a lot of the players that fall on these lists that may have been outside of my era to watch. But I still think it's important that some of those players are mentioned and still brought up in a lot of these lists, because their impact on the game and the skills and the way they change the game cannot be matched. So, getting into the discussion of some older players like Johan Cruyff, Franz Beckenbauer, were two guys that, especially those two, that I never got to see play. You don't see as much being talked about from a global scale. I mean, growing up, not really familiarizing myself with the game of football from a world stage, Pele and Maradona were the only names that you ever heard, right? Those were the big ones, right? And then even getting into like a George Best and a Michel Platini, there are a Zico, there are players who've played who were phenomenal. And you look back at some of the older Brazilian teams and English teams and Italian teams, there's phenomenal talent that was there. And the impact that guys, like I said, Cruyff and Beckenbauer had on the game as far as from a tactical or a technical aspect is unmatched. So some of those guys were in my conversation, as well as, I think, Cristiano Ronaldo was on my list. He's not the greatest. He may be one of the best goal scorers. That's for certain, but he's not, he's in my top 10. Same with Ronaldo Nazario, the Brazilian Ronaldo, who famously came on the stage in believe it was FIFA World Cup '98 in France when he took off and then in 2002 as well, just a phenomenal player. The other one that I'm sure is probably a little bit more debatable for others was Ronaldinho, but to me, I watched Ronaldinho play live as I could on TV so many times, and he left me speechless. I mean, the things he could do with the ball, the way he would his Jogo Bonito style while he would be playing, and the way that he could his tricks with the ball were insane. His free kicks were deadly from any distance because he could hit a ball like a Roberto Carlos where it would change direction 5 times. But he could bend one over the top of the wall like Beckham at his best, but then also drill one with a power shot. So he was in my conversation, and I know that you mentioned it too, but Mia Hamm is in my top 5. And Mia Hamm, again, within the realm of what she's playing in her era, was the most dominant women's player I've ever seen. And there may be more individual skilled players now on the female side than at Mia Hamm's day, and obviously she wasn't playing against talent that was maybe as consistently good now, but that's not her fault. And it's the same as Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell played against different centers back in the 60s than Shaquille O'Neal or was playing against in the 2000s. So Mia Hamm, to me, the way she changed the women's game, the way she brought light to the women's game. I mean, a 2-time World Cup winner in 91, 99, 100 and almost 158 international goals, almost 300 caps, 295 caps. I mean, just an absolutely. I mean, she debuted for the women's national team at 15. John.
Yeah, in the snow,
and that's unheard of. I mean, we have recently seen a couple 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds at the women's national team level, and it happens sometimes overseas on the men's side. Occasionally here and there you see a 15, 16-year-old, but she came in and never left. So to me, Mia Hamm was up there, but my top three are probably as top three as anybody else around will probably discuss and argue, but Pele and Maradona come in at 3 and 2, and that leaves the top spot for Lionel Messi. And to me, it's not close. And it's no disrespect to what Maradona did, and it's no disrespect to what Pele did. And you can put up statistics all you want, and Messi's up there now to especially with the World Cup. But when you watch him play, the things he does against the high level of defending and goalkeeping talent that he's doing it against, it's not even close. To me, Maradona scored great goals. Pele scored great goals. Individual talent, hands down, phenomenal. Can't question it. But then you look at the skill of the defenders and the goalkeepers they played against. Just put the shot on target, you were going to score. These goalkeepers were terrible. And again, it's not their fault. But what Messi's doing against the highest trained, most athletic players playing in the world at goalkeeper, hands down. Lionel Messi, greatest player of all time. World Cup cements it. It's just not, and it doesn't mean Pele didn't change the game. Doesn't mean Maradona didn't change the game. Didn't mean he inspired people to play the game. But if you look at the highlights of what Messi has done in his career, he doesn't, when he gets fouled, he continues to play through the ball. If he gets taken down, he's fouled. He's stopped. But the amount, doesn't cry for contact. He doesn't cry for a foul. He plays through. His whole young career at Barcelona, there's a 12-minute video clip of him scoring the 95 goals he did or whatever in 2012. He plays through all this contact. He just plays. But he's so magical on the ball. He can be a distributor through the middle of the pitch. He can take you 1v1. He can hit free kicks. He can score inside the goal, inside the frame with headers. He can do anything. So to me, it's not even close. It's Messi. It's hands down because what he's doing against the competition. And he would have dominated in any era, in my opinion. And again, that conversation between Maradona and Pele, sure, it's always going to be there. We're always going to have that debate. I think that's what makes sports debates awesome. It makes what's the greatest of all time awesome. But to me, when you watch the tape, no one has done what Messi does, and he's doing it against even better competition. There's my case. I've staked my case, John. Tell me about your list.
Well, I mean, I will. I will. Steve let out the cat out of the bag already with, usually we end the show with who our GOAT's going to be, but he's got it out now, which is great. I think it's fantastic. And I love the case. I think what you were saying makes all the sense in the world. And when we come back, I'll lay out my case as to why I think what I think. Before we do that, though, let's talk a little bit here about the best in the world. Well, FC Barcelona is one of them. And the FC Barcelona Soccer Camp is an exclusive opportunity to learn the mythologies of the unique Barca style. FC Barcelona coaches will arrive across the United States to conduct the training sessions and teach you the technologies of one of the most successful soccer academies in the world. And coming this July 3rd through July 7th, Barca is coming to the Legacy Sports Center in Brighton, Michigan. Use promo code FCBSMSN and save $30 off registration. Again, that's July 3rd through the 7th. FC Barcelona Soccer Camps. You're watching the Morning Overlap with Steve and John on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Our mission is to help players take their game to the next level and reach their potential. We help players develop fundamental technical skills such as ball control in tight spaces, dribbling at speed and changing direction, using a variety of 1v1 skills, receiving and finishing from different situations such as volleys, headers, one touch, and off the dribble, with and without pressure. In addition, we help players increase their speed of play, dominate with their off-the-ball movement, awareness of space, defenders, and teammates. We offer a variety of services such as one-on-ones, small groups, as well as large groups and team sessions. We have an experienced coaching staff that is professional, friendly, patient, while still holding players to high standards and holding them accountable. Over the past 3 years, we've built one of the best soccer-specific training facilities in the country. We've also developed one of the most detail-oriented training programs to help out players. No matter what level you're at as a player, I'm confident we can help you get better. For more information, visit our website, evolutionperformancetraining.com, or text or call 248-818-3943.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in!
Call or two, or they think they saw something, and then that kid from that team goes into a tackle extra hard, and now his emotion, he gets up pushing and shoving. And so there's sometimes those things can transpire and push themselves into the game, which is not what we want. And of course,
Steve, we have our first phone call.
We got a phone call.
We have a phone call.
Oh, well, well, John, I mean, if we got a phone call, we should probably take the phone call.
So thank you for calling in here to the Overlap Show here with Steve and John. Who we have on the line?
Yeah, it's Jacob Little.
Well, Jacob Little. There.
Oh, he even put his whole name out there. I was expecting John from Detroit just to call and be safe.
He's going to say first time, long time is what he's going to say.
Welcome in, Jacob.
So welcome into the show. Your comments here on parents being better or worse.
I'm a husband. I'm a father.
I'm a sister.
I'm a son. I'm a brother.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister.
I'm a referee.
I'm a referee.
I am a referee.
I'm a referee.
To do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do.
We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not.
We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo.
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
Well, welcome back here once again into our premier Sports Center studios in Shelby Township, Michigan. It's got a good ring to it, Steve. As we are live right now here on YouTube. This will be available later this morning on all listening platforms, wherever you listen to your podcasts. As we continue the conversation this morning about the greatest soccer players of all time, Steve laid out his GOAT is Lionel Messi. For obvious reasons, Lionel Messi is arguably the greatest of all time. As we've talked about throughout this show about the era in which they're playing in, I think Lionel Messi is playing in the toughest soccer era ever, and I think that makes it really easy when you see the things that he does and the manner in which he's doing it to be successful. But if I think about like Pele and what Pele had to endure, or players of the like during the 1960s, 70s, travel. Just a different. I mean, the way that you can get from point A to point B today is so much different than it was 30, 40, 60 years ago. The training grounds, the facilities, right? What has improved over the course of these eras? And Lionel Messi grew up in an era where, growing up in the 80s, where soccer, as far as developing just different facilities and things like that, all those things, the academies, all these different programs that were not available to a Pele or to a Maradona, makes it a lot easier for him to be the best player, right? You think about LeBron James. LeBron James grew up in an era where, basketball players were starting to get millions and millions of dollars. He was playing for a private school, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he, playing in a really nice gyms, really nice facilities, access to, training equipment, the best coaches. Those things matter when developing talent.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
So while I'm not disagreeing with you in regards to, what you're saying in regards to Lionel Messi being the best player of all time, there's no doubt in my mind that when it comes to the era in which Pele played, that he is the greatest player of his era. And then you start looking, okay, does he transcend it? No, I don't know, because again, I look at the era in which he was at, and he was a special player playing against the players of that time who went through very similar trainings and coaching and the environments that they were in. He won 3 World Cups, a part of 3 World Cups. You can't mistake that. You just can't. Lionel Messi, he had been to he had been to the World Cup finals once before that. He lost. He won this past year, and kudos to him. That will, I believe, will staple his place in history as one of the greatest players of all time. But I think about, where did soccer begin in this world? Where did soccer? It's obviously started in a long, long time ago, and we could talk about the players of that. But I think about Pele and say, this is a time period where the game of soccer in this country wasn't even, I think, on the map in the United States. And if it was not.
Well,
I know we talk about on the map.
It was because you mentioned your favorite movie, The Greatest Game.
But I mean, though, like when you're talking about the sports of our time, right? Baseball, football, hockey, right? Soccer was late to the show.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think,
so
of course, it definitely didn't have the impact, and he put it on the map. I think in a lot of ways he put the game on the map across the world. But being a figure that happens to be at the right place at the right time, don't get me wrong, he scored lots of goals, a great player, but I'm not sure just because he happened to be that guy that necessarily makes him the greatest. But
again, I think about it from the standpoint of transcending the game, right? Lionel Messi is playing at a time where soccer's always been the number 1 sport around the world.
Never been bigger.
Never been bigger. It is the biggest sport history, right? Ever. I mean, I think there was, how many people watched the finals? 1.4 billion people watched the finals this year. Some crazy number. I mean, he's playing at a time where it's really easy to be the most well-known player in the world. And what I mean by that is, it was really difficult for Pele in his time to be the most well-known player. I mean, news-wise, communication-wise, we live in a very, very different time period. But I think about the game itself and what someone like him would have to overcome in order to be successful at the game. Here's some stats, Messi versus Pele, okay? So Messi, he scores a goal every 104 minutes. That's what this stat shows. He gets an assist every 237 and involved in every either assist or goal every 72 minutes, right? That's the average. On the flip side of that, Pele, a goal every 95 minutes, an assist every 195, and is involved in everything, every one of those, every 64 minutes. I mean, those stats alone tell you something. Pele, over the course of his career, scored 756 goals. He played in a total of 819 games. Lionel Messi, over 1,009 games, has scored 796. He's played in 200 more games than Pele. That probably because they didn't have that many games to play back in the 1970s, 1960s, right? They didn't have that many games. 3 World Cups. But here's the key. Now, again, this is where you can look at it and say, okay, Messi's got 350 assists in his career. Pele has 367, played 200 less games. 200. He has done more with less. And that's why I believe he is the best player to ever play the game. Now, again, Lionel Messi is a special player, and the things that Messi can do, and we've seen special players, Steve, when we're calling games here on the network. We have seen some really special players. We have. Players that can weave in and out of play, and they create havoc. And what Lionel Messi does when he has the ball is he attracts so many different people coming to him that creates so many other opportunities for other players that makes it just changes the way the game is played. I find it hard to believe that Pele didn't do the exact same thing. With the amount of talent that he had, being able to go into a game and just change the course of that game by being in the field. And he is not, I mean, he's one of a number of players that can change the way look at, Ronaldo. Ronaldo, I agree with you. I don't think Ronaldo is in the conversation. I really don't. I don't think he's, to be fair, I don't think he's even, when in the Sports Illustrated thing I looked before, he was 15th. I think that's too high. I think he should be 20, 25. I don't think Ronaldo, and for a lot of reasons that might not have a lot to do with maybe soccer as it is about other things, but I don't think he's in the top 20. But, Maradona. You think about that, right? What he did. I think Messi, Maradona, and Pele, top 3 all day long. I don't think there's anything.
There's a good consensus too that that's always going to be the debate in the conversation, which I think is, when you talk about, keep going back to the basketball thing. People always ask, well, what's your starting 5 or top 5? Well, this is that top 3. Messi, Pele, Maradona. You can argue it in different ways, and you can look at statistics in different ways, and some people will value one over another, and that's fine. But I think there's good debate there, and I think there's a good, honest debate about what matters to you or what you think is most important and within those timeframes. And I think there's arguments to be made for all 3. I think if we had a third member here on the morning overlap, I think there'd be a case to be made that Maradona could have, just as much say in this argument as well, which I think is great in that we talked about, I think Danny Garrett had brought up a Mount Rushmore of players, and I don't see too many people, that would talking about this subject that could leave those 3 off that Mount Rushmore 4.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we talk about this. Look at it this way: would Lionel Messi, Pele, Maradona, would those 3 players playing if Maradona in the 80s, early 90s, Pele 60s, Messi today? Would Messi be as dominant under the same circumstances in the 60s as Pele was? Would Pele be as dominant in the 2023 as he was in the 60s? Coming up the same rate, would you see that same?
It's all hypothetical, sure, but I mean, the more you watch of Pele's highlights, I think he doesn't get enough credit for the foot skills that he had. It's not like he was just hanging around in the net and being a Thomas Holmstrom or a Dino Ciccarelli and just, knocking on loose pucks around the goal, like just knocking like loose balls in. His skill work and his dribbling is unbelievable in tight situations, the things he was able to do. I think if you put Pele into today's game, would he be successful? 100%, because he carried the game at a higher level at that time than anyone else could play. Would it have been different had he been playing against far superior goalkeeping and defenders? I don't know. It's hard to say if he would have been as dominant. And that's why, to me, you drop Messi into any era, he's going to dominate, because what he can do against the highest level, to me, is unmatched. And again, it's a good conversation to have back and forth. But I think they both could play, obviously, at today's level. Because they're both extremely skilled players.
And we think about it too, is the game today is obviously much more intense than it was. Well, maybe not intense in the same way, but in the 1970s they introduced the yellow and red cards for the first time. Prior to that, you could just lay out someone and you were still on the pitch.
Sure. So
a Pele would be dealing with that on a much larger level than Messi and Ronaldo and all these other players, right? Again, he won 3 World Cups, 1958, 1962, 1970. Again, up until just this year, Messi had not raised the World Cup trophy. Would this be different for you if he had not raised the trophy here this past summer? Fall.
I could have had this argument with you 5 years ago.
Fair enough. Okay.
To me, again, eventually we knew he would pass the statistics of goals and scored and these type of numbers. But to me, when you watch them side by side, there's arguments to make for Pele. There's arguments to make for Maradona. There's sometimes arguments to make from other players. But what he was able to do over his career that's still going on, and the longevity now of his career, the way he has shaped and changed his game. The World Cup was never going to be something for me that solidified it as far as, I needed to see it. For me, I was most happy he won it because it could silence the doubters who always said, well, he never won a World Cup. And it's so difficult to do in today's day where the strain, especially this past World Cup mid-season, having to stop domestic leagues. So even more impressive in my mind that they were able to get it done. But again, it wouldn't have changed my argument. It's sometimes I feel like John, we've both grown up in an era where we've gotten to witness arguably some of the best athletes to ever play their respective sports, whether it be Michael Jordan, whether it be a Barry Bonds or a Ken Griffey Jr. or a Mark McGuire, or Nolan Ryan at the very end of our younger ages of the end of his career, a guy like Wayne Gretzky, a guy like Alex Ovechkin. A Sidney Crosby. We didn't get to see Gordie Howe play. Well, I did, but he was playing for the Vipers as a 70-plus-year-old. And then in the game of soccer, we've gotten to witness the likes of Messi and Ronaldo. We've gotten to see, Amia Hamm and some of these other players. I mean, how many recent players made our type list? So we've been blessed. And to your point, these athletes now are training in some of the best facilities, have access to some of the best trainers and nutritionists and facilities and opportunities to become great. And every sport is always evolving, always changing. So we've been able to see it, and so our view, and that's why I think the era thing is always going to be an argument and always a point of, I think, a different lens to look at some of these things through, because you do have to look at it through with knowing that filter that these games were played within an era against what was there, and that you can't change that. Just as if 20 years from now we may be having a completely different conversation about some of these same sports because the way the sport has now been shaped, or the players now that are coming through the system, in the future.
No, and to more solidify my position on this is, again, just thinking about time period. And that's why I think that we should change this from greatest of all time to greatest of your era. Because, right now Messi is playing, and there could be a player, for example, Mbappe, right, who just played for France, right, had a phenomenal tournament again, won a World Cup here 4 years ago, right? Who's going to say that he might not be the next Messi? I mean, he is a phenomenal player.
I mean, if Mbappe goes on to win 4 World Cups and score all these goals, I mean, to pass Messi to get to those to get to Pele levels of goals scored, he's going to have to stay injury free, and he's going to have to score a lot of goals. But he could win. He could score 200 less goals, but win 4 or 5 World Cups. I mean, You know what I'm saying? Like, not then that's maybe a bit.
But does individual stats? I guess the next question becomes, though, let's say you're part of a team that wins 5 World Cups, and you're like a player. I mean, does that make a difference? I mean, Tom Brady, we could argue he had great stats, right? But he did not have the best players around him. He made those players better. So that's why the argument for him is that he is, in fact, maybe the greatest of all time.
Sure.
But there are you could be part of a team that's had tremendous success, and does in the world game, does that make a difference in the greatest of all time?
Well, I think especially in soccer, individual statistics I don't think they're valued in the same way as other sports because of how important and how sacred one goal can be sometimes. Where a 1-0 game happens more times than not in games where you just need one goal. It's not like an NBA game where you're scoring 20 points, or a football game and scoring 3 touchdowns, or racking up yards and putting up these statistics. Sometimes one goal is all you get in a game, or there's stretches where you go without a game. So the numbers that you were talking about for how many, every 94 minutes for Pele, 104 minutes for Messi for averaging a goal is insanely impressive, for that. It's so hard as it is to score as a team, let alone to be individually doing it over and over and over again on a consistent basis. So to me, individual statistics, Messi could have never passed Pele in goals, and I still would think he's a better player. Now that he's passed him, it just puts more ammo into my arsenal of saying, that he is. But that's just a personal preference. I don't think statistics in soccer matter as much. They're still part of the equation. I think they have to be looked at. Obviously, they hold value, and they are that story of the player and what makes up that player to be great. However, if you were to give Pele 60 less goals, it doesn't change the player he was. If you were to give Messi 20 less goals, it doesn't. So, I think a lot can be made over statistics. We talk about in other sports, certain statistics mean more, whether it's total, points in a basketball career or touchdowns thrown or those types of things. Super Bowls in the team type sport that football is. I think so much of it really does boil down to that eye test of watching them and then combining that with team success, with on-field success, and with that statistical success as well.
Well, this is a debate that we will have to continue for another show. A great debate nonetheless. We start talking about this. I don't think, and again, it's like Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, right? Who is better in your eyes? And I think depending upon the person that you might be talking to, my father or a brother who's older, who grew up watching a certain player, right? I mean, Joe Montana was a player, right, for a lot of people back in the 80s and the 90s, right? And then it became Tom Brady for all of us. There's Peyton Manning is in there as part of that conversation as well. So I think that depending on what team you are a fan of, right? In the NFL, it's obviously what city or team you might be in love with. Internationally, it's the country you happen to support, right? I mean, and we really didn't talk about any great American soccer players other than Mia Hamm, right? So those are things that we could talk about here on a future show as well. Georgia's Soccer Supply Company, a brand new sponsor here on the network. Georgia's Soccer Supply has been around for a very long time. They've been family-owned and serving the Metro Detroit soccer community for over 40 years. They have a store located in Troy on Rochester Road. The address is 3837 Rochester Road in Troy, Michigan, right between 16 and 17 Mile Road on Rochester Road. And they sell all soccer supplies, authentic replica apparel, everyday soccer needs, team sales, and much more. For more information, head over to their soccer store, their georgiasoccer.com. You can call them at 248-528-2948, or just stop on by as they're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6 p.m., and they're closed on Sundays. And we appreciate them being a new sponsor here of the network. Again, remind everybody that if you have not yet subscribed to the network, you should do so. And we will be available here on all listing platforms here later this morning. Steve, final thoughts here before we head out, and we want to put a reminder out there that we will be not be here next week at all.
No morning overlap next week, but there's be some content coming out throughout the week, and some recaps of some content that is already out, and previewing some new content coming out later at the end of this month.
So that'll be a wrap here for this Thursday, February the 9th. It's a crappy day outside, but inside here in the studio, not bad. We're dry. We're warm. As we're sending you off here to another wonderful weekend. Reminder that, we're not on the air next week at all. Any of our shows, you will have some recap shows that'll pop up on the network. Check out our social media. We're MI Soccer Network on all platforms. Make things really simple. Send this to your friends, your families. And if you want to get involved and you want us to tackle a certain topic, just hashtag the Morning Overlap on any of our social media and the topic that you want us to cover. And we'll definitely consider it. So for all of us here, Steve Besk, I'm Jonathan Turner. This has been the Morning Overlap here on this Thursday morning. And we'll see you next time for more soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.